The Houston Marathon is currently 6 days away at the time of filming, and I thought instead of talking you through my taper this time around, because I've done that a lot before, I'm going to talk you through my biggest mileage week of this marathon block and my biggest mileage week ever. I ran 100 miles in 1 week, and I'm going to take you through exactly how I did that, what I did each day and why, and at the end of the video I'm also going to talk to you about what my goals are for the Houston Marathon, because by the time this video comes out, I'll be racing the thing. But first, I gotta run. And it snowed yesterday, so we're hitting the treadmill. Right, now that the important part of the day is out of the way and I have run, let me tell you how I ran 100 miles in a week. Now, this was 3 weeks ago, so 4 weeks out from the Houston Marathon, or I guess you could say it started 5 weeks out, because it started on the Monday, it finished 4 weeks out, because it finished on a Sunday. Well, I'm just going to take you through it, and I'll explain myself.
Explain yourself.
Alright, kicking things off with a nice, easy double Monday. So I switcherooed my runs around today. I was set 7 miles and strides to do in the morning and an easy half an hour in the evening. But it was really cold in the morning, so I got the shorter one out of the way so that I could have company in the afternoon. So, first run of the week, 4.4 miles, which took me 34 minutes. That's a pace of 7:44-minute miling, or this in kilometers, and thank you, Daniel, for converting all of my minutes per mile pace into kilometers. For the duration of this video, for the people that are, quite frankly, stupid. Damn! Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. There's no judgment here. If you choose to measure in kilometers and you choose to measure your pace in minutes per kilometer, that's fine. I am not judging you. Kicking things off with an easy run. Why? Well, I'd done a long run the day before, so Monday's a recovery day. In the afternoon, I had 7 miles plus strides. The 7-mile run was done at 7:37-minute miling, took me 53 minutes and 24 seconds, and then I did the strides as a separate activity because we finished the run at the track, so I tested out my racing flats, which you will see in the next video, which is the Houston Marathon video. You might have spotted them in my last video, but I tested those out on the track for 6 times 100 meter strides. I tend to do strides once or twice per week in isolation, as in after an easy run, and I'll do a couple of strides after my warm-up and my drills before a session. Strides are great for improving your form because it's a short burst of speed, typically 20 seconds or 30 seconds or between 100 and 200 meters, and you can really focus on your form because you're not tired and you can take a nice walk recovery between them. Great to add into your week if you don't already do them, and that added 0.82 of a mile for Monday, bringing the grand total for the week so far after Monday to, bringing the grand total for Monday, day 1 of the week, to 12.22 miles. It's actually kind of crazy that the remainder of this week, from Tuesday to Sunday, was 88 miles, and I didn't even run that last week. That blows my mind. I am now deep into the taper and running a lot less. This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Now, in high-stress environments, like the last few days of a taper for a marathon goal that you've literally been working towards every day for the last 3 months, I often find myself needing the support of my sports psychologist and those around me more than ever. And these days, life can be constantly stressful sometimes, and I appreciate that that can be in ways that are a lot more challenging than the anxiety brought on by reducing your mileage a few days before a race. Working with a therapist, whatever is causing your stress or anxiety, can truly be a life-changing process. I personally have delved into areas that extend way beyond sports psychology in my sessions with my sports psychologist, and even though simply talking doesn't necessarily solve all of my problems, it does leave me feeling lighter having shared them, and knowing there's a space to talk and think. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easy because it's online, it's remote, and just by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you with a credentialized therapist in as little as a few days. And because finding a therapist is a very personal and individualized process, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which can be a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a different therapist at no additional cost. And thanks to BetterHelp, they've given you guys 10% off your first month. Just go to betterhelp.com/philybowden or click the link at the top of the description below. And trust me, from experience, no matter how big or small, talking about your feelings or anything that's troubling you will help no end. Thank you again to BetterHelp for supporting this channel. Now Tuesday, that's where I needed to support myself quite a lot because it was a mentally and physically challenging day. It was my first proper session up at altitude because I'd only been here for a few days by that point, and it was 8 by a K up on Lake Mary Road, which is at 7,000 feet, pretty exposed to the elements, and not flat. So, to warm up, typically I'll do 20 to 25 minutes. I was on the longer end that day, so I did 3.33 miles, which includes my 2 30-second strides that I've added in to the end of that warm up. And then we get to the session. Super controlled for my first session at altitude. Really the function is just to get your heart rate raised a little bit and to get the legs moving. We're not thinking about splits, and we're trying to keep the heart rate in that kind of tempo zone. These were meant to be tempo Ks, but I can't do them at my usual tempo pace because I'm at 7,000 feet. So I really didn't look at my watch much during this session in terms of paces, but I had it on the heart rate screen. So I will just run you through my splits. And they're really not flashy at all, and that's okay because this is a really integral part of my block, and the goal that day was not to go all out. So I ran 350, 350, 346, 354, 348, 351, 350, and 349. I had a very generous 2-minute jog recovery between those Ks, which is a lot more than I'd have back home. So I was able to keep my heart rate pretty controlled. So my average heart rate for that session was actually only 158, and it got up to 171 at the maximum. Pretty controlled, and I'm running roughly 15 seconds per kilometer slower than I would do if I was doing tempo Ks at home. And on the track, I'd be running low 3 minutes, so considerably slower. But we got the elevation and the altitude thrown in there. That was 6.81 miles in total. And then for my cool down, I did a nice round 3 miles at 7:35 minute miling. No double on Tuesday, so my grand total for the day was 13.14 miles. Adding in Monday's mileage, that's 25.36 miles, 2 days in. Not bad. Wednesday was pretty much a carbon copy for Monday, but instead of strides, I had gym, which is definitely not a like-for-like trade, but similarly, I had an hour run in the morning, so 8.19 miles, averaging 7:35 minute miling. And then in the evening, I did an easy 4 miles on the treadmill at a very round, easy pace of 8-minute miling. That's my jogging pace, which is my happy place for my easy runs, especially up here. Kept the heart rate super low on that one because there's no corners to deal with. You're on the treadmill, you live in the dream. I love the treadmill. So my heart rate was average 138 for that, which is a real true sign to me that that was a proper easy run. I tend to cap off on the sort of mid 140s for an easy run. Unless there's a hill in there, then I don't mind if it creeps up for that section. And then I rounded that off with my gym workout, which has been the same every week throughout this marathon block. I brought the strength work down, and one of my gym sessions has been a lift, and the other one has been predominantly rehab focused. So I did some compound lifts on Wednesday, took me about an hour, mainly focusing on hips, glutes, quads, hamstrings, legs, essentially. A little bit of core thrown in there and some rehab exercises that are specific to me. If you'd be interested in me covering my full gym workout video, by the way, guys, I would happily document that for you. I know I've done mobility and warm-up kind of videos before, but I don't think I've taken you along for a full gym session. Apart from that mic'd up one I did in Font-Romeu. I guess that's kind of different. If you want an educational gym video, let me know and I'll make it. So our running total at the end of hump day is 37.55 miles. Now this is where the week gets a little bit rogue. Thursday was my long run. I had 20 miles on Thursday. That's kind of a long way. Now, reason being, I normally session on Tuesdays and Fridays. I swapped my workout from Friday to Saturday to get some extra recovery before hitting my hard workout, and so that I would have some company for my warm-up and cool-down where I was doing my workout, which will make sense when I talk about Saturday. So I didn't want to do a massive session on Saturday and then my long run on Sunday, because that's too much mileage, too close together. So instead, we shifted my long run to Thursday, and so I had 20 miles to do on Thursday. And I had company for half of that, which I was really happy with, because the long runs can be harder on your own. So I had company for the first 10, and then I just did the same 10 mile out and back on my own. Kept it super easy, 7:21 minute miling average, and my average heart rate was 145, max 160, which again I was really pleased with, because for your long run, because of the cumulative time on feet, your average heart rate tends to be a little bit higher than, for example, the 4 mile easy run the day before. But 145 for a 2.5 hour long run is pretty good, with some hills thrown in there as well. So all's going well at this point, which means our running total at the end of Thursday is 57.55 miles, which is probably more miles than I will run this week, with half of them being the marathon. And then Friday, guys, was my easiest, shortest day of the week. Now, sometimes this easiest, shortest day, which is rarely on a Friday, it's normally on a Monday, will be a rest day. Every 2 to 3 weeks, I try to take a complete day of rest. Sometimes I'll have a shorter, easy run, and I guess you could call this shorter in the grand scheme of 100 miles. I just had an hour on Friday, and again, I did 6 by 100 meter strides afterwards as well. So 8.06 miles for Friday morning. A random number, I'm sure it's just the loop that I did. 7:42 minute miling average. Heart rate was 136. So again, true easy, which is good to see the day after the long run as well. So I'm recovering well. And then the 6 by 100 meters strides added on 0.64 of a mile, which is just over a kilometre, which brings our grand total so far at the end of Friday to 66.25 miles. Now, I want to talk a little bit about easy running here before I move on to the big session of the week, because I said I'd talk about why I did certain things at different points in the plan. Easy running is so crucial, and it is the backbone of my marathon plan. Everything that comes off of it, the intensity, the long runs, is all an offshoot of the easy running. That's the foundation. It's the buttery biscuit base.
I like the base. I like the buttery biscuit base.
You can't be without it, because it's there for recovery, it's there for base volume, which is going to give you a really nice level of fitness that you can then build on for those harder, bigger sessions. And every marathon that I've done, I've been able to gradually increase my mileage. My long runs have probably stayed pretty similar. My sessions in terms of volume have also probably stayed pretty similar. The thing that I've been able to increase as that kind of buffer of volume that's increased over time has been the easy running. And you can do this with cross training as well if you're not quite ready to increase your volume and you've been maybe a little bit fragile and had a few injuries. Cross training works exactly the same, but it's just keeping in that easy aerobic zone. Typically zone 2 on your watches, sometimes zone 1 if you're going super slow or just taking a proper recovery day. And for me, I love these runs. Whether it's the day after a hard session and you're knackered, or an easy run with friends, you can have a nice chat the whole way. It's they're good fun. So Saturday, I dropped down for this one. So we tend to drive about an hour down to a place called Camp Verde, which is a very unique place in the state of Arizona. It's like nowhere I've been before. There's just kind of expansive land, random houses dotted around with quite big gardens or yards, they call them here. And the specific neighborhood that we run around is like a 2-mile loop, or you can do out and backs on the road as well for a K. And the people that live there must see who's who of the fastest middle and long distance runners in the world every summer, winter, autumn and spring, because there's just so many professional runners down there and amateurs getting their hard workouts in, because it's a great location to drop down to from Flagstaff if you're living up here and living high and doing some of your training high, but dropping down to lower altitude. I think it's roughly 3,000 feet, whereas we're at 7,000 feet up here, means that you can get a higher quality of workout in. So whereas my paces were heavily adjusted on Tuesday, not so much so on Saturday. I'm able to run closer to marathon pace in week 1 of being up here at altitude. And later on in the camp, I was down there running even faster than I've run at sea level. So you don't have to deal with the oxygen debt as much. So again, the usual 20 to 25 minute warm up and cool down after the session. And my session, she's a big one, was 4 times 2 times 2 miles of 90 seconds recovery and 90 seconds between sets as well. So what that looked like was 4 sets, and in each set is 2 2-mile reps. And the aim was to get faster each set, so I had different paces for each set. So in the first set, my pace goal was 6:10 minute miling, or this, in case. So the first 2 2-mile reps, I was aiming to run 6:10 pace. And then each set, I was aiming to get progressively quicker. Second set, 5:50 to 6-minute pace. Third set, 5:40 to 5:50 pace. And the fourth set, 5:40 to 5:50 pace again. Or, nice little note from my coach here, if you feel good at the end, push towards the lower end of the target. So that's what I did. So here are my splits for set 1. You can see that I was maybe a little bit quicker than 6:10 pace. I definitely felt pretty easy at this point, so I felt confident in going in at kind of 6:05 average for the first set, and we just picked it up from there. Second set, averaging roughly 5:53 for both of those 2-mile reps. Third set, cutting down again to around 5:45 pace. And then in the last set, we sent it a little bit. First rep was at 5:37 pace, and the last one, I clipped it down to 5:35 because I felt really good. I'd recovered well throughout this whole week, and I was really pleased to take this one off actually because it was my first big, tough session of this camp. 17.2 miles just from the session, not including the warm-up and cool-down. The total for the day was 21.8 miles, so actually longer than my long run. And the legs felt pretty good for it. Part of the function of these longer session days is just exposing your legs to that fatigue that they're going to be experiencing in the latter stages of the marathon, and then having to run fast on that fatigue like you have to do in the latter stages of the marathon. So it was a good day to feel good, and by the end of Saturday, we're at 88.05 miles for the week, which is pretty handy because I had a 12-mile run to do on Sunday. So on Sunday, when everyone else I was running with had their long runs, I had what I call my medium long run. So this is effectively what I would have done on Wednesday or Thursday had I not shuffled things around. So my medium long was 12 miles. It was really hard, okay? Yes, it was an easy run, but the day after doing 21.8 with a lot of that mileage at quite a bit of intensity, I was tired. And I'm not sure I've run much further than 8 miles the day after a 20+ mile session day. So the last couple miles I was struggling. Averaged 7:13 minute miling because I was with a few faster people that day and I wanted to stay with the group so that I could enjoy the run in terms of socializing. My last couple of miles were a lot slower than that. A bit of a death march, but I guess that's what rounding off an 100-mile week feels like. My heart rate reflected that, so I averaged 147 that day and my max was 166. And then the last thing I did for the week was my gym mobility and rehab session. So I did that on Sunday afternoon, and that's essentially the stuff that's in my mobility video, plus a few rehab exercises. If you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. And well, that rounds off an 100-mile week, 100.1 to be specific. My first time hitting 100, biggest week ever, and obviously biggest week of this block. And I hope that I can push this higher next time around because all in all, I actually felt pretty good off this level of running, but it's taken me a long time to gradually build up to this level. Years of work. 3 years ago, I could hardly string together 35 miles without getting injured every 8 weeks because I was just deconditioned, not doing the strength work and not doing the little things and not being consistent with it. So yeah, big achievement, hitting the bigger honey. And so I guess now I should probably talk about the marathon I'm running in 6 days' time. Scary. No, I'm excited, but I am obviously nervous at this point, which is normal. I always feel nervous the week leading up to the marathon, but I promise I'd talk to you about some of my goals. And whilst the plan isn't set in stone yet, I'm actually going to be talking to Helen later today, my coach, about how we kind of pace things. And then I'll meet with my sports psychologist later this week to kind of marry up the mental plan with the physical plan, a lot like I did last time. If you haven't seen my Copenhagen Marathon recap video, I talk about this process and how I kind of made that plan. So a lot of that isn't written out yet because we do that during race week, but I've got some goals. I know what they are already. And by the time this video comes out, I will basically be running the marathon today. So you can find out maybe before me whether I'm going to hit these goals. The big time one that we all think of first, obviously I want to run a PB. My time from Copenhagen is 2:29.16. That's my current best, and I'd like to take some plural minutes off that time. I would love to run the Olympic standard, which is 2:26.50, and if I'm honest, I feel fit and ready to run quicker than that. So 2:25 something, 2:26 low, in that kind of region is, that's the A goal. That's like right up here. And we'll go backwards from there to kind of set the B goal, the C goal, what else I would be satisfied with running. Obviously you can't be unhappy with a PB, but I feel like I've put a lot more work in and I'm ready to run a lot quicker than just a few seconds off what I ran in Copenhagen. So that's the big exciting one. And the other thing I like to do is set goals that aren't pinpointed on that finish time, because it's not all about that. When someone asks me, how did Houston Marathon go? I'm not gonna go, oh yeah, I ran this time, and then end the conversation there. There's so much more of a story to that race, and there's other goals that I have, and I think it's important to have other goals going into a race, because there's so many ways to be successful and ways to improve that having goals kind of across the board, not just based on the time, can be really helpful and can make it more exciting as well. So I'd like to be really calm as an athlete during the race. That's something that I'm aiming to feel, a feeling I'm kind of goaling towards, I guess, if goaling is a word. As always, I want to have fun out there because racing is fun. That's why I do this. I'd love to negative split again, and I just want to leave it all out there and be competitive, be my best, and do everyone proud. There's so many people that I'm running this race for that aren't just me. You know, Daniel has come out here on this camp. He's been filming for this channel. He's been supporting me, passing me bottles. My family at home that I haven't seen for Christmas, and, you know, I've spent a lot of time away from them. And, you know, my teammates, my coach, my friends, and all of you guys who have been supporting me on this journey since I started making these videos. And I really do feel that support from the regular viewers of this channel. So this one's for you as well. So whatever happens out there, I just want to do everyone proud. I think if I leave it all out there, once I've crossed that finish line, then I'll be able to say that I've done that. So I guess all that's left to say is, love the grind, baby. Let's go!